Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Borderlands 4 video, and today we are going over the top 5 best legendary SMGs. I made a previous video of this, of the top 5 best shotguns. We're just continuing that series this time around with SMGs. We're gonna be going over what my top 5 are and where to get them. I hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's do this. A quick note before we dive into the top 5 legendary SMGs. I truly believe that you can get purple SMGs that are better than a lot of the legendaries on this list. Particularly Vladov SMGs. The Buri SMG, which we've used in a few Harlow videos, can roll with Torg stickies. It can roll with Jacobs. It can come with the taser attachments. You can get alt fires for increased fire rate. And if you're looking for good SMGs to run on your build, don't just ignore purples, because some of the best SMGs in the game are genuinely purples. However, they're super random rolled, so it's kind of hard to rank them. But if you're looking for a good SMG, purple SMGs, particularly Vladov ones with Jacobs parts, stickies, tasers, alt fires for additional barrels, even the flamethrower attachment can be really, really impactful, and it's definitely not something to sleep on. So coming in at our number 5 spot is the Looty Mad Lad. This is going to be a dataless SMG. Its legendary perk, Homemade Ingenuity, means that it overheats quickly but also cools down quickly. This weapon will always roll in COV licensed mag because it needs to overheat and cool. It does not seem to roll in elemental variations, and it does not seem to roll like Jacobs or Torg parts like that. It'll always have COV. The variance on this weapon seems to be what the secondary dataless firing mode is, and the one that you're going to want to look out for is the shotgun mode. Now, what sets this SMG apart is its fast fire rate. We turn on our volume here and let this thing rip. It fires very, very quickly. Now, it doesn't do a ton of damage. However, in the shotgun mode, it does a fair bit of damage. It shoots very, very quickly. And it can be pretty fun on some infinite ammo builds or COV builds. For example, on Rafa here, with our shotgun mode, cannot consume ammo, we can just spray shotgun ammo. Really, really fun. Not the highest damage weapon. That's why it's not any higher up on this list. But it is one of the more interesting ones, and it does a fair bit of damage. The Looty Mad Lad drops in the Tipping Point Order Bunker in Idolator's Noose in the Fade Fields from Mimicron. At our number 4 spot is the Burt's Bees SMG. Now, this spews out a lot of projectiles. It's like Hive Mind, a legendary perk. Basically, when you shoot it, the bullets will kind of spiral and swarm kind of around the target and the target that you're shooting at. Now, this thing puts a lot of bullets downrange, and it's not super great for single target damage. However, where this weapon's real strength lies in the amount of projectiles that it spews out and the amount of possible rolls that it can get. I don't personally have a great Burt's Bees. However, this thing can roll by default into an element, so you can get an elemental Burt's Bees. It also can roll Jacobs parts, and it can roll Torg parts, so you can just apply a ton of ricochet stickies that are all dealing elemental damage. It is definitely one of those guns that has a high potential, but I don't think the highest or the best floor, basically, on default Burt's Bees. I think they feel not great to use. However, getting a good roll on these things can make genuinely a world of difference. Burt's Bees drops from Sledgemaw in the Fade Fields Idolator's Noose. Note that you do need to do the Null and Void side quest to unlock Sledgemaw. You also need to do the All Charged Up side quest, which will follow the Null and Void side quest. Coming in at our number 3 spot is the Oh My God. I don't think this gun can really roll any additional parts or variants. All the ones that I've personally seen, it's been basically the exact same. So no hope for Jacobs or Torg parts. However, this is one of the most interesting SMGs to build around. And I say to build around because this thing won't be great if you just pick it up and start shooting. You basically need to have a way to sustain overshield while you're shooting this thing. However, if you do, it actually is a pretty solid option. It fires out a beam laser that does solid damage. It's decent for mobbing. I wouldn't really use it for bossing. However, on the right build, this thing is great. However, it does come with one massive downside, and that massive downside is the main reason it's not any higher on this list, and that is it can down you. The laser has a very small range. You have to get pretty close to enemies, And if an enemy gets close enough to you and you're shooting this laser gun at them, it'll basically one-tap you. So I personally don't love using this thing because if an enemy charges you, a lot of times you will just one-shot yourself. However, on a setup, if you're managing your space decently, this is one of the stronger SMGs to use. There's a lot of ways to sustain overshield. Vex can do it really well, and Harlow can also do it really well. Amon can do it well. I haven't really messed around with anything like overshield on Rafa, but for example, on Harlow, she's got the nuclear winter augment that whenever you're inside flux generator, you deal bonus damage. That bonus damage is considered action skill damage, and so you can use like 1 point in distribution function. Whenever your action skill damages an enemy, restore a portion of your shield capacity. And so now whenever you're shooting your gun on Harlow, as you can see, my overshield just like blasted up. And so now my gun just gives me overshield, and then I can use the ohm to have like a laser gun that just doesn't drain any ammo and can chain between enemies. The Oh My God drops from Moon, Madden, Callus. If you want to get there, you just need to go to the Elpis Orbital Shatter Field, and then you can teleport up there. If you're on a character that did not play through this story mission on like a fresh level 30, you can just come to the elevator, and then there will be like a door that you can use to go up. At our number 2 spot is the Plasma Coil. Now, these don't seem like they can roll in different elements or roll with additional parts. However, the amount of damage that they roll or DPS that they roll seems to massively vary. I've rolled all the way down from like 4K DPS Plasma Coils all the way to up to this one, which is a 9.8K DPS Plasma Coil. Now, these guns hit like a truck. They're really, really good. However, their big downside is their projectile speed. When you're shooting a Chaosan, there's like a bit of a delay between you pulling the trigger and then your projectiles actually arriving at a target. If you're using a build that freezes enemies or slows them down, or you're fighting against enemies that don't move all that much, it's not really an issue. However, if you're trying to shoot this thing at things that are like teleporting, zipping around, or flying, it can be a real pain to actually hit them with the Plasma Coil. However, if you have targets lined up, this is one of the highest DPS weapons, and it works across a lot of different builds. If you do want to use the Plasma Coil, I was about to recommend that you use High Caliber to increase your projectile speed, but we just tested that, and unfortunately, it seems to substantially decrease the projectile speed of the Plasma Coil projectiles. I've used High Caliber on other builds. Projectile speed definitely increases. Something going on with the Plasma Coil is just wonky. So yeah, don't use High Caliber with the Plasma Coil. It'll actually make it feel worse. The Plasma Coil can be farmed from Timekeeper in Dominion. Coming in our number 1 spot is the Chaosan. Now, this was easily one of my favorite SMGs in Borderlands 3, and it is incredibly powerful in Borderlands 4. The Chaosan is defaulted to Vladoff, and it'll always roll with Torg Stickies. It does seem significantly rare to find it in elements. However, it is possible to find in elements. I've got a fire one, a shock one, and a cryo one. I don't know if it can roll in radiation, but when you're looking for a Chaosan, the main things you're going to try to find is 1, an elemental one, and 2, the percentage increase of damage that you get per sticky can vary. At the lowest roll, it will roll a 2%. At the highest, it will roll a 4%. I have yet to find a 4% Chaosan. However, it is possible. Now, what makes this gun so special is, 1, it's just great damage. It feels great to shoot. It's accurate. It is good for mobbing. You can shoot a mag at an enemy and reload, and that enemy will die. However, it's also one of the best in slot weapons for bossing due to its high DPS, its fire rate, and how strong Torg sticky stacking is. If you are using anything to increase the amount of shots that you get to put out, such as like using Vex's Witchy Trigger Finger or Rafa's Bullet Buddy Deluxe, you can spam out a ton of stickies, and they are enough to delete just about every single boss in the game. The Chaosan drops from Origo in the Arc of Origo Vault in Terminus Range. Guys, that is going to do it for our top 5 SMGs video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know which list you'd like to see next, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Peace.